it's your boy W from Sweden, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you guys the rarest knives in CS2 that still have never been unboxed. And yes, even though over 2 billion cases have been opened, there are still a handful of skins that remain unopened. And I've spent quite a lot of time now trying to search up every single skin that is rare and seeing if it's been unboxed or not, and the results are pretty interesting. But before we get into the list, I want to thank today's video sponsor, which is Pirate Swap. Pirate Swap is a CS2 trading and instant sell website where you can trade your skins for others or instantly sell them safely for real money. With Pirate Swap, there's no waiting for listings to sell because you just sell the skins directly to Pirate Swap and get the money instantly without waiting. And also using code Anomaly when depositing gives you up to a 35% deposit bonus, which is really nice. So if you want to try out Pirate Swap, then please do so from the link in the description, and thank you once again Mr. Pirate Swap for sponsoring this video. So, first off, the rules of the list. I'm not going to be counting specific pattern IDs. For example, the Skeleton Case Hardened 403 Blue Gem, the best pattern, still hasn't been opened in Factory New, but I won't be counting that because that's the specific pattern 403 that hasn't been unboxed in Factory New. There's probably thousands of different Black Pearls that haven't been opened in maybe pattern number 4 or 768. That's just too broad. I'm not going to be counting that. Same with sticker combinations. For example, a Kenny S Souvenir Dragon Lore doesn't exist. There's tens of thousands of autograph combos that probably don't exist, but I'm not going to be counting those. So let's start off the list with 3 different skins that had never been unboxed for a very, very long time, but just recently were unboxed. Starting off with the StatTrak Classic Knife Crimson Web Factory New. This one remained open from 2019 all the way up to 2023 when it was opened for the first time ever, and this actually marks the last StatTrak Crimson Web Factory New knife that needed to be opened for all of them to exist. And that's kind of crazy to say. StatTrak Factory New Crimson Web is one of the rarest skins that exists. It's float capped and StatTrak, so it's just kind of cool to see them all exist at the same time, which is something we haven't seen for a very long time. The second recently unboxed skin is a StatTrak M9 Bayonet Scorched Factory New. This one remained open all the way from 2013 when skins were first added to CS, all the way up to 2023 as well. That's 10 years later. And in a video I made on this same subject 3 years ago, I actually mentioned that M9 as one of the skins I never thought would be opened. So this knife is a knife we might actually never see unboxed because so much time had passed and so many cases were open, but now apparently it exists. That's very cool. I was proven wrong. And finally, of course, the third recently unboxed very rare skin is the StatTrak AK Case Hardened 661 Factory New. Now, I said I wouldn't mention pattern specific skins, but because this one was unboxed so recently, I feel I have to mention it. As many of you know, this AK remained unopened for like over 10 years, but it finally exists now, and there's only one in the world, and it sold for like over $1 million. Very, very rare. But now let's get into the list of skins that actually don't exist. They've never been opened and maybe never will be. The first one is a bit of a cheat. It's the StatTrak Factory New Karambit 387. Don't worry, this is the only other time I'm gonna mention a specific pattern ID, just because it does exist in Factory New, but not in StatTrak Factory New, and that's actually a skin I think we will never see. I hope to be proven wrong, but if someone unboxes it, I think it's going to be the most expensive knife ever sold. Now, for the actual list, the first skin is the StatTrak Classic Knife Urban Masked Factory New. Now, I'm a nerd, so I think this is pretty interesting, but this Urban Masked Classic Knife is the only 0.06 float capped knife, so Urban Mask, Boreal Forest, Safari Mesh, Crimson Web, Night, there's so many different patterns. This is the only one that doesn't exist. And that's kind of cool, because these float capped 0.06 skins on knives that were Star Trek Factory used to be very legendary back in the day, and collectors were buying all of them. Like HFB, his collection of these is very insane. And it's crazy to see that this one hasn't been opened still after 6 years of the CS20 case being in the game. Depending on how many CS20 cases people open, we may never see this. The next skin is actually 5 skins, and these are the only other like category of knives that still remain unopened. And of course, it's the StatTrak Minimal Wear Black Pearls. There's actually 5 of these that don't exist. We have the M9 Bayonet, Stiletto, Ursus, Huntsman, and Bowie knife, all in minimal wear, StatTrak, Black Pearl. And none of them exist. And it's pretty easy to understand why, because in most cases, a Black Pearl is like 10 times as rare as a Doppler, and sometimes 50 times as rare as, for example, a Marble Fade. The Doppler skin itself is also capped at 0.07, so you only have between 0.07 and 0.08 chance to get a minimal wear. I'm actually working on another video where I go into the depths of how rare statistically it is to get, but let me just tell you, it's very, very low chance. And since the cases you get these from are getting rarer and rarer, especially the M9 coming from the Chroma 1, 2, and 3, these are now going up in price. I'm not sure if we're gonna see it unboxed, and I definitely don't think we're gonna see all 5 of these unopened Black Pearls be opened. But shit, maybe I'm proven wrong again. I don't know. I'm just gonna say the ability to open the M9, for example, it's been in the game since like 2015, and it's still not opened for 10 years. That's kind of worrying. Actually, my trusty Clips channel editor Envy found that there is actually another Doppler that has never been unboxed, and it's the StatTrak Shadow Daggers Ruby Minimal Wear. I thought I checked every single skin, but apparently I missed this one because otherwise it would have been in my video. But as you can see, there's 90 of them, and the worst float, it's still factory new. So this is actually a pretty rare knife that still hasn't been opened. Next unopened skin isn't actually a knife, it's a sawed-off shotgun. Of course, I'm talking about the sawed-off Fubar, but the special thing about this one is the float value. It doesn't have numbers in its float value, it just says full. Now, I'll try to explain why this only happens to the sawed-off Fubar as easily as I can. The sawed-off Fubar is the only skin in the game with a float cap of 0.4 well-worn to 1 battle scarred. This means that you can only get it in slightly worse well-worn or battle scarred. And CS Float states that there's about 1 billion different float values for any skin in a specific range, but since the range now is so limited to the battle scarred side, all of these 1 million numbers basically end up in that small, very high float range. That means that the topmost high numbers that are usually just a 0.99999 battle scarred, in this case, they're pushed so far towards the number 1 that they basically round up to the number 1. I think that's how it works, but then again, I am retarded. So far, 1,139,000 sawed-off Fubars have been unboxed, but none of them have been this full float. And it's pretty easy to understand why, because the actual chance, according to Flary's video, to unbox this full float Fubar is 1 in 23,301,689. So to hit the actual full odds of only opening 1, we still have only opened 5% of that number. And since we have a dwindling supply of these cases and they're just going up in price, less and less people are opening them, so I can almost guarantee this is a skin we're never going to see be unboxed. The next skin in this list is only theorized to exist, but I'm pretty sure it does. Of course, we're talking about the Souvenir R8 Revolver Amber Fade with either DreamHack 2013 or Kato 2014 Souvenir stickers. Now, I said I wouldn't count specific autograph stickers, but in this case, it's actually an item obtainable from a specific case. And it's obtainable from every single one of these DreamHack or Kato souvenir packages. It's not just one specific with a autograph. So it kind of makes sense, but fuck you, this is my video. I make up the rules, this skin is on the list. Now, the reason these are so rare is because back in 2013 and 14, when these souvenir packages were dropped, there was no R8 in the game. It was added in 2015. So all of the packages opened previously couldn't have the R8 in it. In it, mate! But after the R8 was added to the game, 2 R8 skins were also added to the drop pool of these packages. The R8 Revolver Bone Mask and the R8 Revolver Amber Fade. Now, like I said, the Amber Fade, it's never been unboxed, so we're not fully sure if it exists, but it makes sense because the Bone Mask has been unboxed 9 times. So opening this obviously would be extremely rare, and funny enough, this would be the only pink skin that would have these souvenir stickers on them, because back in 2013 and 14 there was no pink skins in the drop pool of these packages, so this would be the only pink. This would be a very, very, very expensive skin, because the Bone Mask that was opened from these packages sold for something like $14,000, like a very high number. I think this one would cost up to 40k. It would be a very, very incredibly rare one-of-one skin. And for the final skin on this list, we have yet another glitched skin, the R8 Revolver Bone Mask. Like I said, this one has actually been opened 9 times because this is a gray quality compared to the Amber Fade, which is pink, and this one has only been opened 9 times, and none of them are factory new. That's because the Bone Mask That's because the Bone Mask That's because the Bone Mask skin That's because the Bone Mask skin, just like we previous That's because the Bone Mask skin, just like with the Urban I'm gonna kill myself. That's because the Bone Mask, just like the Urban Mask I mentioned before, is float capped at 0.06, so even getting it in factory new is incredibly rare, let alone it being a souvenir. That's also true for the well-worn and battle-scarred Bone Mask, because this one only exists in minimal wear and field tested. None of the other exteriors have been unboxed. And this is another skin I doubt we will ever see in factory new souvenir. So, thank you guys for watching. That was a pretty interesting video, seeing some of the most rare skins in CS that have never been unboxed. To summarize things, I think the classic knife may be unboxed. There's a pretty good chance. I think a few of the remaining minimal wear stat track black pearls are going to be opened, but not all of them, because that would be the stars would have to align perfectly. And the Fubar, the Souvenir Bone Mask, and the Souvenir Amber Fade, I don't think we're ever gonna see, because they are just so rare. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Now I'm going to go cry because I tried to say the Bone Mask Urban Mask sentence like 20 times and I failed every time. Whoopin'!